You know, people are making comparisons with between Obama and FDR, and they're not completely off base because Obama faces such a difficult international situation when he comes to office. He faces these bloody conflicts in Iraq and Afghanistan, persistent terrorist networks, assertive competitors, a cooling economy, a financial meltdown, and a warming planet. So it really is a difficult circumstances in which to take office. I think he's made it pretty clear that among his first priorities is Iraq. I think he will want to bring together the military when he takes office, bring together the military, his foreign policy counsellors. I think he will probably signal that from the beginning he has said pretty consistently he wants to finish the war in Iraq. He has a plan for a phased withdrawal, and I think the first thing that the administration will do will be to start to have that debate about whether the withdrawal can take place within that timetable, but to get that debate moving, because I think he doesn't want to own this war, he wants to finish it. I think that there will be some similarities between President Obama's foreign policy and that of the second term of the Bush administration. You recall in the first term, President Bush was the Charles Atlas of international relations, stomping around the beach, kicking sand in the face of the puny Europeans, ripping up every multilateral agreement he could find. In his second term, he became a more pragmatic, more multilateral foreign policy president. That's the style that you would expect from President Obama once he takes office. But of course, I think he'll be even more multilateral probably than President Bush was in his second term. He has the great advantage of global Obama mania as opposed to extreme global unpopularity. And of course, on some issues like global warming and Iraq, there are very clear differences. So differences and similarities, but more similarities with the second term of the Bush administration than the first, obviously. I see President Obama as being a foreign policy pragmatist, but not a foreign policy realist. I think he will be a pragmatist because it's hard to find much ideological content in the things he says about foreign policy. He tends to take the approach he wants to get back to what he sees as the post-World War II model of America managing its relations with the world in part through allies and through institutions and through other powers. There's very little of the kind of neoconservative element we saw, especially in the first term of the Bush administration. So I see him as pragmatic, but I don't see him as a realist in the Henry Kissinger model, standing over the chessboard, moving the pieces coldly around. And the reason is, I think it's tough for any democratic administration to have this sort of steely devotion to national interests above all considerations that the term realist implies. The Obama administration will be staffed by Democrats. It will be influenced by lots of players apart from foreign policy professionals. It will have a commitment to human rights. We know that President-elect Obama and the people around him believe passionately, for example, the international community has a responsibility not to allow genocide and war crimes to go on. So I think there will be a tension between the sort of the realist side and more of the activism. But I think above all, he will be a pragmatist. I think President-elect Obama's temperament is one of the things that the international community is happiest about. You have in Obama somebody who is even-tempered, somebody who is pretty cerebral, pretty deliberate, and very disciplined, somebody who listens to all the facts and the arguments before he makes a decision. After 8 years of a president who doesn't much like meetings and briefings and is wont to tell briefers to speed it up, this isn't my first rodeo, I think the sort of intellectual curiosity that we've seen in President-elect Obama's writings and in his speeches on foreign policy and the sort of even temper is something that will be welcome in most parts of the world.